IPC chairman and former Kano State Governor Abdullahi Ganduje yesterday led a delegation to President Bola Tinubu, and a report on livestock reforms and mitigation of associated conflicts in Nigeria was presented to him. A little backstory here. This is a national challenge that has cost us lives, has caused conflicts, loss of property, and so much more. It has caused friction between societies, within people, the infamous farmer-herder conflict. So some recommendations were made to the president, and one of them is the establishment of a Ministry of Livestock, amongst other recommendations. Now, this committee is chaired by former INEC chairman, Professor Atahiru Jega, and the conference held in Kano during the tenure of former Governor Abdullahi Ganduje. So let's get into this particular one. Let's get insights into this, because the president spoke yesterday. He talked about the plans, but let's understand what is in the offing here. We're joined on the program this evening by Professor Kuta Yaya, who is the chairman of the technical committee of that livestock reforms and mitigation of associated conflicts, is a former SSG in Niger State and professor of agricultural extension and development communication at the University of Ibadan. Thank you so much for joining us tonight, Prof. I know you've had a very long day. Thank you for being a part of the program. Okay. If we could just unmute you for a moment so we can, in fact, for the whole conversation, so we can hear you, Prof. So please unmute so we can hear your response.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Fantastic.
I'm pleased to be here for the good of Nigeria. Thank you.
Indeed. So let's dive right into it because of time. Now, one of the major talking points is the establishment of a livestock ministry, but I imagine that there is more to this than that. Yes, we'll get to that, but first tell us, how did the president receive that report?
Well, the president's reaction was palpable. He was delighted. He was happy, and he was very assuring, because he, as a very patriotic Nigerian, he said he had tried before, especially around 2018, to see how he could contribute to ending these farmer-herder conflicts. But unfortunately, he said it was elusive. But according to Mr. President, he said there's nothing bad in trying. So this time around, he said the solution is here. Because at the time he was trying in 2018, I'm sure not many people would have known that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu would become the president of Nigeria and will be the one that will bring an end to this ever unabated crisis or situation. So we are pleased that he received the report very well, and he brought in dimensions that are economically defined, socially constructed, and politically very, very exigent, because he said he will want to carry every state along, and most of the states in Nigeria are agrarian. And you know, 75% of Nigerian economy before the advent of petroleum was largely dependent on agriculture. So this time around, we know that livestock is a major ingredient of food security, not only about access, but also about affordability and the nutritional content of food security. You cannot have a nutritious diet when you don't have components from livestock as complementary. In addition, the economic boom and the potentials of the contribution of this sector to the economy is palpable in many nations that have adopted livestock ministry.
Also speak to that, the skepticism that has met this in previous times. People worried, especially during the tenure of President Buhari, some saying, oh, this is Ruga, the old grazing routes. This land belongs to us, and all of that. Did you get that this time around? Is this different from what we saw that last time?
Well, the good news about this conference is that we took stock of virtually every policy on livestock development in Nigeria and came to a conclusion that none of those policies were bad, but the irony was the implementation. So this time around, the conference agreed that it's not going to be business as usual. We have to walk the talk. No more rhetorics. We have gone beyond rhetorics. We need to tell the whole world what are the potentials of Nigeria in terms of livestock production. What are the potentials of ranching as option? What are the kind of benefits that people in communities that will adopt these technologies and that will come with it will benefit? So it's not about the need. There is a need that these recommendations, there will be sensitization. There will also be mass mobilization of the media to change the narrative of negative inclinations towards reporting, because it exacerbates the already suspicions and intercommunal relationships. So therefore, the media, and we thank Channel Television for being part of this campaign, so that you hear from first-hand information, no speculation. Any policy that is generated that does not have the input of the stakeholders always end up with skepticism. But at this conference, every sector of Nigerian economy, all the actors, producers, processors, the cattle breeders, all of them were at the conference. They participated actively. And we got good examples from what is happening in Shein, Oyo State, by Onyx Farm, by Wamco Farm, and what is happening in Sabore Farm in Adamawa State, so where they are collecting milk, and what is happening in LZ in Kano. Right. We have good examples to showcase. And based on this, Nigeria will be a future exporter of agricultural and allied products from the sector.
Right. So some quick questions here. Just to get clarity first, and we'll try to make this as brief as possible to accommodate all of the questions. So is this different from Ruga? Some of those policies we saw in the past, is this different or is the same?
Even the concept of Ruga is misconception. They use Ruga from the concept of outside word that call it enclave or settlement. This one is not. Ruga, or by its definition, is rural grazing area. Just like you have in the near past, ranching, that's ranching, where you minimize the movement of cattle. But this time around, we're talking about bringing modernity into the endless search for food and pasture by pastoralists. They can be encouraged to settle in grazing reserves so that gradually, for example, in Niger State, we have 22 grazing reserves. Some of them have been taken over by urbanization. Some of them have been taken over by individuals. But some of them have been reclaimed back. They have been gazetted. And the Bobby Grazing Reserve, with about 10,000 hectares of land that is dedicated to livestock production, is a good example. That, so and the new governor of Niger State, Honorable Umar Bago, is trying to expand the scope and to accommodate more cattle ranching and other agricultural interventions that will claim the ungoverned spaces and reduce criminality.
So let me follow up with that point, Prof, quickly. When the president talked about purchasing land, how will it work? Is it a willing seller, willing buyer? How exactly will the purchase of land, acquiring land work? Because for some people, yes, they believe it's business. Some might not be interested in selling land. What are the fine details?
You see, for every intervention, there is a procedure. Mr. President has spoken, and the details of this implementation model will be made known to the public. But Mr. President assured Nigerians that the solution is here, and we believe him, because we know he's going to walk the talk. We can appreciate his antecedents in terms of previous efforts, and most importantly, the economic point and the revenue generation. You recall, in the near past, it has been reported that Nigeria imports an average of 100 billion naira worth of milk every quarter, where you have the potentials that the genetic composition of livestock within the West African region, Nigeria in particular, is the highest and the best in the world. For example, it has been confirmed that in Gebu, in Adamawa, in Taraba, where you have these cattle species that produce cheese with 12.5% protein content. The global average is 2.5%.
Prof, so let me just quickly put in two questions. We have less than a minute to go on the program or thereabouts. So one, who is going to be bringing the funding? Is it the business owners, the cattle owners, or government is going to be funding this? First, please answer that.
Take it again.
I was asking who's going to be providing funding for this. Some say it's a private enterprise. So will they be done by the cattle owners? Will they be the ones purchasing the land, or government will be providing support and funding for them?
I want to refer all of us to the agribusiness concept espoused by Adesina. Adesina, in his era as Minister of Agriculture in Nigeria, said that we should look at agriculture as a business. In this, and then this president is a private sector and business-oriented person. He has talked about it that whatever he's going to do to bring prosperity to the people, it will to be done. So when the details are out, you will see how it will be operationalized. But this time around, the window of opportunity for Nigeria is that we have a president that is ready to walk the talk. And the livestock sector in Nigeria is going to have a new leaf of life.
I wish we had more time. I really wish we had more time, Prof, to take a look at this deeper, perhaps another time. But finally, on a final note, will there be a recommendation also, because people have asked, will there be a ministry for farmers or for crops and seedlings, if there will be a recommendation for Ministry of Livestock? Do you think that's fair enough?
No, you see, when you are talking about agro, you are talking about the entire crop milling system in Nigeria or in the agricultural sector. And agriculture is divided into different spheres. Particularly, you have the one that deals with crops, dealing with soil, dealing with animals, and dealing with even aquaculture.
Right.
So, but in this circumstance, because of the intractable conflict that has been associated with herders and farmers, we need to give this special attention. And if this is done, all of us will be happy that the conflict will be over for the good of all of us.
Prof, we're totally out of time, but we have to thank you so much. We'll take a deeper look into this clearly in the coming days. Professor Mohammed Kutayaya is the chairman of that technical committee. Thank you so much for your time on the program.